So, it's November, which means it's NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, although really it should be called International Novel Writing Month, and they wouldn't even have to change it from NaNoWriMo, but anyway, that's a separate thing. NaNoWriMo means that several people, hundreds of thousands of people in all probability, all around the world are going to be writing a first draft of a novel. So I wanted to talk a little bit about first drafts. Maybe you've never written one before, maybe you've tried and it hasn't worked very well for you, maybe you have a new book out and you're kind of daunted at the idea of starting an entirely new project, considering you can see how far the book has come from that original first draft, especially if you conveniently keep all of your drafts on a bookshelf next to the published versions of your book. Maybe other people don't do that, maybe that's just me. Writing first drafts can be hard, no matter how many times you've done it before. Some first drafts pour out of you like water out of a bucket. They go from start to finish, and then you're onto the editing phase. But the thing is buckets have different, can carry different amounts of water, and some buckets are quite small and you need several to get to a full first draft, and some buckets are huge and they just come out all in one go. Other first drafts even are like clumped up salt. Nothing comes out until you stick a, don't say knife, utensil into them to clear it out. And that utensil is potentially free writing about what you're going to write and how excited you are, or nervous or annoyed at the challenge of it. And then either it streams out in a completely unmanageable disaster, or it jumps out in chunks and dust. And it's okay to be on either side of this, to be anywhere in this spectrum. It's okay if sometimes your buckets of first draft are like water, and it's okay if sometimes they're like salt, and it's okay if sometimes they're like covered in lids that have the really difficult plastic that you've got to try to wrangle your way underneath, and I've got a receipt in my middle pocket. It's all okay, because first drafts are hard. My best advice to you when writing your first draft, whether you've done it before or not, is let it come to you as it will. Encourage it gently, like a cat you're coaxing out from under a bed or off your desk. If you feel bored, throw your outline out the window, literally or figuratively, but probably better to do it figuratively. Or create an outline because you know what you want to happen, you just can't find the words to make it happen, and like doing a bullet pointed list, which is basically an outline, I have to say, even as a staunch no outlining for me until we're getting to the quite late in the drafting phase, as in like in the editing drafting phase. Anyway, like make a bullet point list of what you want to happen, and then if you don't like it anymore, don't use it. Explore the narrative, let yourself write out of order, build characters and plot, and use as many saids and sides and whispers as you want. Tell us what things look like by saying it looks like. Tell us how characters feel, because everything in a first draft can be edited later. Let it be the worst, most self-indulgent thing you've ever written, because if you're not indulging yourself, especially in a first draft, then what is the point? I'm really sorry. Someone's being a terror. My book, Arlan Breaking the Curse, is an adult fantasy with action, adventure, heapings of magic, and a delightful, slow burn, heartwarming romance. It's available now. All of the links for where to find it, and me, and this online are listed in the description box below, next to the like and subscribe buttons if you feel like hanging around and hearing more of my tips for you getting through the drafting thing, and then the editing thing, and then the publication thing. Or if you just like hearing about how writers do it and you actually never intend to write a book. Or if you're just here because you like Arlan Breaking the Curse. Okay. Ayla says subscribe! Sometimes, when your cat's under your sofa, you do have to move the sofa and get the cat out. But usually that requires 2 sets of hands. Yours for lifting the sofa and somebody else's for grabbing the cat, or vice versa. And sometimes it requires extra tools, like a peg. That was the last one we used. Or a cat toy is probably more sensible. But yeah, if you don't be afraid to enlist help to get you through your first draft. Like, there's nothing wrong with talking it through with a friend or family member or someone you met on the NaNoWriMo forums. There's nothing wrong with deciding to use prompts you found on the internet. There's nothing wrong with having days where you don't write and having days where you have to force yourself to sit down and write, because forcing yourself to sit down and write is a part of the writing process, but it's not the main part. Like, a lot of people sort of talk about it like it's the only way to write a book, but ultimately, if you have to force yourself every single time, you might need to take a break. Because sometimes when you force yourself, you just end up feeling worse for it. But sometimes when you force yourself, it ends up being a really good writing session. So, like, you need to sort of take the time to learn that about yourself, and you can do that in NaNoWriMo. Like, try forcing yourself, and if it's still not going anywhere, call it for the day. Try forcing yourself, and if it works really well, then great. It's November, which means it's NaNoWriMo, which means that a lot of people around the world are going to be... This is too tall. You're too tall.